Welcome to this month's highlight of 4 John and Jane Doe cases. If you enjoy what we do here at Polygraph, please subscribe or comment below. Number 1. Cracroft Island John Doe. On November 13, 1982, a headless, decomposed body was discovered on Cracroft Island in British Columbia, Canada. Cracroft Island is separated into east and west, with the remains of the body appearing to be washed ashore with the coming and going of the tides. On the body of the remains were black rubber boots, brown cloth socks, and a neoprene wetsuit with a Waterwear of Victoria logo on it. This is a common brand of wetsuit sold in many shops in and around British Columbia. Underneath the wetsuit were gold cloth drawstring sweatpants, which according to sources is an uncommon thing to wear under a wetsuit. The man also had a fishing rod on their person. Initial investigation and theories believe that the person might have been a shore fisherman, perhaps using the wetsuit as a pair of waders to venture further out into the water. Their estimated death is presumed to be around November 1981 to May 1983. They are identified as a white male who stood between 5'9 and 5'11, and were somewhere between 18 and 30 years old. Interestingly, his big toe had been painted pink, and the top part of his left pinky finger was amputated prior to his death, with fish picking at his decomposing remains while they were in the water. This is likely why the head of the unknown man is missing, as it became detached floating in the water and being fed on by fish. This is similar to reports of detached feet washing upon the shore in Pacific Northwest and British Columbia in the past decade or so. The theory is that due to the length of time a body spends in water, the sea life and the current of the ocean, limbs can become detached and wash ashore separate of the body. Most of these cases are presumed to be the results of accidental drownings, purposeful drownings of those taking their own lives. However, it is uncertain if John Doe was a victim of foul play or simply found himself too far out and swept away by the current or a rough swell. Investigators said he most likely entered the water further south of Cracroft Island and was brought up by the current. Cracroft Island is a rather remote part of British Columbia, dotted with small villages. It is likely someone out there is familiar with the unknown man. If you or anyone you know have any information to provide, please submit a potential match to the doenetwork.org or contact the British Columbia RCMP at 1-778-290-3100. Number 2. Maricopa County John Doe. Who is Michael Sidney Hill? Michael Sidney Hill is the name of a man who is said to be from the United Kingdom. Michael had been in contact with a friend in the US for almost 2 decades, but the two had not seen each other in the same amount of time. Though the two were not super close, they stayed in touch at least once a year. Michael had phoned his friend and said he would be coming to the US in about 1 week and would love to get together, to which his friend happily agreed. On the morning of February 25, 2013, at 11 a.m., Michael arrived at his friend's house on the 4800 block of North 15th Avenue in Phoenix, Arizona, by unknown means. The man came with nothing but the clothes on his back, sporting short, gray-brown hair with a beard and mustache stubble, and blue eyes. He stood at 5'6", and weighed roughly 115 pounds, and was of slender build. His toes are misaligned due to arthritis. Michael had previously told his friend that his birthday was on April 23rd or 28th of 1937, which would make him about 75 years old if true. After some chit-chat, Michael left his friends at around 1 p.m., stating he would return. 4 hours later, he did indeed return, but arrived in soiled clothing, complaining of not feeling well. He was given some pajamas to change into, and then went to lie down in the guest bedroom. A short time later, he began to convulse and then became unresponsive. 911 was called, and Michael was pronounced dead at the scene. To make this bizarre incident even stranger, the man carried no identification, claiming he was indeed Michael Sidney Hill. So who was he? The man appeared in no databases in the US, including where he had entered the country. If he were to come from the UK, surely he would have had to go through customs upon entering. The biggest question is what happened in those 4 hours after he left his friend's residence. Perhaps he had a pre-existing condition, or had taken ill from some sort of drinking or drug problem. Maybe he was on the run, or being tracked down. Online sleuths have stated that it's possible he was already in the country, which is why he hasn't located on any flight manifests or immigration documentation. Some have shared that he may have known he was dying and wanted to say goodbye to a friend, and came empty-handed for this reason. Others have called the host into suspicion, noting that there was little investigation into him, stating perhaps the man was kept in the house and weighed so little due to mistreatment. This case is more mysterious and troubling than some of the others, but there is hope. There are sufficient dental records for the man after his autopsy, as well as DNA on file, which has been submitted to CODIS. It is unknown if the British authorities are involved, but if the identity of the subject is not Michael Sidney Hill, there wouldn't be much to go off of. If you have any information about the actual identity of Michael Sidney Hill, or who he may be, please contact the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office at 602-876-1000. Number 3. Smurfette Doe. On October 16, 2012, an anonymous phone call came into the Houston Police Department with reports of a foul odor. Authorities were pointed in the direction of a wooded area off Walters Road in the northern suburbs of the city, where they located a pair of black trash bags. Inside were the remains of a young teenage girl, badly decomposed due to the Texas heat, with the remains being almost skeletal. The cause of death was not determined due to this reason. Upon autopsy, it was determined that the girl was most likely between 15 and 17 years old at the time of her death. She was mixed, being of African American and Caucasian descent, with a petite build, standing at roughly 4'9" and 5'3". Her nickname caught on due to the distinct clothing found on her remains. A blue shirt with a cartoon of a female Smurf with the words, quote, "He smurfs me not," unquote. Also on the body were tan cargo pants, a black bra, and a pink thong, but no shoes. Jane Doe had a distinct overbite that would have been apparent during her life, as well as very dark hair, with hints of red to it, perhaps hair dye. She suffered from a bone disease called osteopenia, which caused her to have a brittle frame and low bone density. She was missing several ribs as well and had signs of possible cranial defects. Isotope testing was conducted on her teeth, which showed signs of early dental care such as fillings, but little recent care was apparent. Testing shows she probably had spent her life in Texas, but perhaps lived in the southern part of the state, maybe closer to San Antonio. Unfortunately for Jane Doe, this is all the information there is to help identify her. Based on her medical defects, it is presumed that she could have been intellectually or physically disabled, perhaps spina bifida, given the cranial defect, brittle bones, and missing ribs. Online forums have suggested that she could perhaps be a foster child, and living with an intellectual disability would make her more of a burden on the foster family, leading to neglect or abuse and eventual death. There are also suggestions of her being a victim of sex trafficking or being undocumented. A combination of any of these things puts her in a marginalized category that would be harder to help identify her. The infantilization of the Smurf shirt being paired with a pink thong underneath her shorts leads some to suspect she could have been a victim of sex trafficking. It is reported that most teen foster runaways are never reported missing, and that there are over 300,000 cases of sex trafficking in the state of Texas alone. Several missing teens have been ruled out as being Smurfette Doe, but authorities continue to look for answers. If you or anyone you know has information that could lead to the identity of Jane Doe, please reach out to the Houston Police Department at 713-884-3131. Number 4. Spizziri Doe. On May 7, 1962, the body of a woman was found in the remains of an abandoned and burned-out building at 620 West Montgomery Ave in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The unknown female was Caucasian, weighing approximately 138 pounds, at a height of 5'3", and had short brown hair with some gray strands. Her right eye is described as being hazel, but the color of her left eye is unknown, as it had been ruptured. She wore dentures, and the upper was inscribed with D. Spizziri or D. Spazieri upon it. There was some residual pink nail polish on her hands, and she appeared to be deceased for about 6 hours. She was brutally beaten and strangled with a blue cord. Jane Doe had several scars and marks across her body, including an oval hypopigmentation on her left upper arm, as well as an abdominal incision above her pubic area. Most notably, a 6-centimeter scar and depression from her frontal hairline to the left side of her skull, with an identical one on the right, as well as a half-centimeter scar on her nose. These scars are indicative of a frontal lobotomy, roughly 20 years prior, perhaps while in a mental institution. Upon her body, Jane Doe wore a short-sleeved red t-shirt, a blue blouse, a white bra, blue pants, blue underwear, and gold-trim open-toed slippers. Near her body laid a key case with 3 keys, one for a padlock, one being a house key, and one for a color combination lock. There is little to no other information into the identity of Spizziri Doe, and it would seem her case has all been but forgotten. Online searches for Spizziri or Spazieri turn up mixed results, but no definitive clues into the direction of this unknown woman. If you have any information about the identity of Jane Doe, please contact the Philadelphia Police Department at 215-686-3388. Please keep an eye out for next month's video, and as always, if you have ever taken a genetic DNA test like 23andMe or Ancestry, feel free to upload your profile to one of the sites listed in the description. It could help solve a mystery. Until then, Polygraph investigates.